And we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, Mary and I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming Kat the Nurse Flipper to our channel, and I'll bring Kat on in a minute. I just want to tell you a little bit about how I came to be aware of Kat and our whole enterprise of an operation. She really got a great business model. I started in eBay reselling in 2020. I knew nothing about anything, so I started watching a bunch of YouTube content, and like the first ones I watched were Commonwealth Picker and Cincinnati Picker and Craigslist Hunter and Dominic Primetime Treasure Hunter. Shout out to Dominic. I'm wearing his shirt today in honor of how I first met Kat and how I first did meet Kat and a bunch of other YouTubers, which was great because I knew no one. I love Dominic's show, and I was a real big fan, as Mary is as well. And he had this competition called the Thrift Battles, and it had gone for 3 years, I think, and it finally culminated around 2020, just when I started watching YouTube. And it turns out that the two finalists were Kat and George the Antique Nomad. And that was a great show. I've watched that. I've watched it a couple of times, and it was really like the best of the best. Unfortunately, Kat came in second, but no shame there. I mean, George was, really kind of an exceptional guy, as Kat is as well, and it was really very enjoyable. So that's how I first came to meet Kat. And little did I know that she also, in the meantime, had like a lot of other stuff going on as far as individual videos and something called the Reseller Live podcast, which is a real fixture in the community. And we just realized that she just celebrated her 50-year anniversary this week, and every week on a Tuesday night at 8:00 she goes live. The first couple of them, I think you didn't even have a co-host, right? It was just you. And then a couple.
I know I had two. I had two originally, but they didn't stay very, very long. It takes a lot of commitment to do it every single week.
Right. You had Julian, bearded thrifter, right? Was a co-host for a while.
I had Calvin and Chris, and neither one of them are making videos anymore. But I think it was less than a month or two. Yeah. And then Julian came on and was with me for almost 2 years. Yeah, for a long time.
And then now Rod.
And Rod's been there now for 2 years too. Yeah.
And anyway, it is just really a joy to watch. I mean, initially the first couple of years that I watched it, I learned a lot. I mean, what it is it's a Q&A segment where you have like you and your current co-host and usually two guests. And Mary and I were fortunate to be guests on it a couple of months back. That was a high honor for us. And we've made it. We've arrived. And we're on Kat's show. We've arrived. And it turned out where the audience ask questions, and then all four people around Robin get a chance to answer those questions. So like every week you get two different guests with different points of view. Sometimes the questions are the same, sometimes they're different, but it really is a great opportunity for beginners to learn. And even me now, I consider myself a weathered, 5 years into it, knowing I pretty much know most of the answers to all the questions, but you always pick stuff up, and it's always great to watch different guests, some of who you may know and some who you may not know, in experiencing them. Like I said, how I met Kat the first time was just through a video, and it really supports our concept of the importance of YouTubers who do a live show, whether it's a Q&A like Kat and Rod does, or just a podcast that's just informative, or just goofing around, you're just having fun for the community. I mean, and kudos to Kat and Rod and to all the others who do this on a regular basis and support our community through the live streams, because as I always say, my famous line is, we're meetup guys, Mary and I, but in the absence of meetups, we're doing this series of interviewing and hanging out with other people who do live streams and get their spin on on how they've been able to establish and develop community, and for their own benefit as well as the benefit of the the community that they're serving. So I know that was a long, drawn out introduction before I even had a chance to get Kat on. I'm glad you chimed in a minute. But anyway, I'm going to shut up for the rest of the segment, and I'll let you and Mary conduct the rest of the show. So, Kat, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I started YouTube back in 2019. So this December is going to be 6 years that I've been on YouTube. And we started the podcast in 2020. And it kind of has developed, like you said, the round robin thing, because when we first started, we were all kind of talking over each other. So we had to figure out a way where that wouldn't happen. And so that's how like the order came about. And we have the hot seat, which most of the time people don't want to be in because that's who answers first. And that just kind of keeps order to it where we're not talking. It still happens. We still talk over each other occasionally, but not nearly as much in the beginning. No. Yeah. And when we first started it, we were like, we talked about topics, but if it's something that you're doing every single week, you're going to run out of topics. And so that's why we do like the live Q&A. And a lot of the questions are the same. And Rod and I have discussed possibly doing like an advanced one. But my thought on it was the attendance has not really dropped. It stayed the same. So I don't really want to change it, because I think the people that need the most help are the new people. So even though we do get the same questions a lot, we get different questions as well. Sure. And also about YouTube, YouTube, live selling, so it's kind of all of the aspects. So I started that and I got lucky. I started before COVID came. I feel like a lot of people jumped on the YouTube train during COVID and I started just before that. I was probably I feel like I was the third wave. Like you were saying, like Craigslist Hunter, Kevin, all those guys were I think most of those were second wave. Pete, Craigslist Hunter was, I believe, one of the first waves.
He was the OG, yeah.
Yeah, and then John as well, Cincinnati Picker, which I've met all of those guys through local meetups and different events. So I was kind of third wave coming into the reseller kind of YouTube space, and I started off mainly doing what sold. I used to do what sold every single day. I would show what I sold every single day, 7 days a week, and it. Sometimes you don't have enough to show. So I, kind of started branching out into different stuff. I did my research video. I think it was 2021 is when I started them. Or 2021, 2022. And my first one was linens, which is one of my favorite things to sell. And that did pretty good. So I started doing more of them. I started doing jewelry, which is another thing I love. And then I did teacups and that video blew up. It got over 500,000 views. And so a lot of my friends still laugh at me. They'll make fun of me because it's teacups that really blew my channel up. And that's something important. And me and Rod tell people you're one video away. That's all it takes, no matter how new you are. That video was the catalyst to my channel getting so big. And then I continued doing it because I like making them. People like watching them. And it's important to find something you like that your viewers like and your community likes, And I think we all have our own communities. And some of them overlap and some of them don't. Some people might love Rod and they hate me, which is okay. I don't have a problem with that because I can't watch everybody. And I think you kind of find the people that you mesh with, you vibe with, and that you feel like you learn from. And everybody's not going to learn well from me. And I'm okay with that because I know I don't want to watch, everybody because I don't relate to them. There might be different business models, whatever it is. And so my big push, and I know we were talking about this before we started, was I had Dalton in 2018. So he was about just shy he was 6 months. He was 6 months old when I started my channel. He started put video of that, and did I disappear on you guys?
No, you didn't disappear. You're getting a little garbled audio though, but we're getting about half of it.
Okay, I know you disappeared on me. I couldn't see you at all. Oh. So Dalton was the catalyst to me wanting to push the reselling as well as YouTube a little bit harder. I have 2 older kids. I actually have a grandbaby as well. So my older kids are 23 and 26. And then I have a 2-year-old grandbaby as well. And I had my older kids when I was, early 20s. I was very young. And when I had Dalton, we had a hard time having him. We lost other babies and I wanted to be home with him. And then when I had him, he was in the NICU. So it was very, very hard. I actually, from the time he came home, was supposed to go back to work in 4 weeks. So I had PTO, kept using it. I went back to work 1 day a week. Then I went back 2 days a week. And I just did not want to be there anymore. I wanted to be home. So I started really hitting both YouTube and eBay primarily really, really hard to build up both of them. And I got lucky, and it is luck. I will tell any you, it's consistency, but it also takes luck when it comes to these viral videos, because all of us that have had viral videos, we try to replicate them. And 9 times out of 10, it does not work. I have made multiple teacup videos after the first one that was so big, and none of them have performed anywhere near that first one. But after I quit in February of 2022, that was when my channel really started growing. So it kind of just worked out together. Speak of the devil. And it was really, really, it was nice. It was just like it was meant to be. My original plan was to quit at the end of 2022, and I got mad at work, and I said, here's my 2 weeks notice after they made me mad. And I walked out 10 months before I planned on it. I was not planning on it. And I was married then. My ex-husband didn't work. My income was the only income. So I really kind of stepped off of a cliff and hoped I didn't crash. And I haven't. We are at almost 3.5 years now of me being full-time. And yeah, I don't regret it at all. It has its ups and downs, both, reselling and YouTube. It's a roller coaster that's hard when it's down, and that's, I think, when like the community really comes into play, having somebody that's going through what you're going through. But not everybody is gonna be having slow sales. That's one of the questions we get a lot on the podcast, is the slow sales. And it's so hard. I tell people all the time, compare apples to apples, and none of us are you can't compare yourself to anybody else, because nobody's gonna have the same items you have. They're not gonna have the same sourcing. It's hard to compare. So I might be down, and like Rod might be having an amazing week. Like Rod, this past week, we got that question. Rod is down, I think it was 20 or 30%, and I'm up almost 70%. Yeah. So that's why we like having the panel. You're going to see that it's not just you, but it's not everybody. One of the things I really dislike the most, and Dom is really good about this. Dom and I have been really good friends over the years, is the negativity, because people talk about the bad stuff, but we're a lot less likely to talk when we're happy and we're doing good. We're just going about our business. But if sales are slow or views are down, we're going to complain. Yeah. And so that's what you hear the most. But the reality is, for every person having bad sales, there's probably, 2 to 3 that are having good sales. So it's, it's something that passes. And that's why I like having the panel. And a lot of times I feel like I'm the oddball out, and I'm okay with that, because I think the big thing with having multiple people answer the questions is it's all opinion. There's no fact on like the right or wrong way to resell. You know, you can do it so many different ways and be successful. You got to find what works for you, not what somebody's telling you.
And quite often you get opposing views on the same question. So that's good. And I think that's healthy as well. Get different points of view.
We actually brought you up on the Reseller Therapy Live the other day, because I know you were talking about luck, but we were literally all talking about how you just worked your tail off. And I mentioned that you literally you have over 100,000 subs. You replied to every comment. And and that I want to ask you about that, but I also want to ask you how long you were reselling and doing YouTube, or if you started reselling first, how long you did that before you were able to quit your nursing job. And I do want to say that I was so excited. I mean, I'm serious. I was probably in my kitchen screaming when I was watching that video. I was so happy for you to be able to be there with Dalton. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah, so I've been reselling off and on since 1999. I've actually done it as like a major income a couple of other times over, it's crazy. What is that? 25 years. And when I had my first son, who's 26 now, my husband at the time was in the Navy. He had just gotten out, so he was working. So it wasn't like I was a sole income at that point, but my whole life, I have to work. I don't care what I'm doing. And I was primarily a stay-at-home mom, but I have to work. I have to be doing something. So I started on eBay in 99, which was a year that I had my older son. And there was a plant nursery next to where we lived, and I was selling plants, and I wouldn't go get them until they sold. And that was back with like money orders and cash would come in the mail. And I did that, and then he lost his job, so I went and got another job. So that kind of faded out. And then when I had my daughter in 2002, same thing. It was plants both of those times. And I mean, I was doing for back in the early 2000s, I was doing like 30,000 plus a year, which was really good then. And same thing though, like it kind of slowed down. And at that point I was divorced. I was, had 2 kids, and I had to get a regular job. So eBay once again kind of faded out. And there were like at that point, and I don't even know when Poshmark and Mercari and all that came about, but I don't think any of them were around then. And I started reselling again off and on like 2017, 2018. I actually raised chickens. So I sold chicken eggs on eBay, hatching eggs, some of them for up to $100 a dozen. Wow. Like rare eggs, I would ship them out. And I was hatching and selling chicks here from the house. That was before I had Dalton. And then once I had him, we started doing pallets and figured out that a lot of the stuff was returned for a reason, or somebody would take a couple pieces out of it and then return it. So we were selling stuff and we were getting a lot of returns. Like it was super frustrating. And that's kind of what got me into watching YouTube about reselling, is the pallets. And everybody, I don't know if you remember, it was big back in 2018, 2019, everybody buying the pallets, going through the pallets. And I love gambling, which is why I like buying lots. And I would always want the pallet with the mystery box. And a lot of times that was like a crappy one, but I needed to know what was in the box. And so we phased pallets out and just slowly built up the store. And like I said, my plan was not to quit then. So I don't even know that I technically was really ready at that point. I was down to 2 days a week. So I had cut my hours because I was working 4 12s. Then I cut it to 3. Then I cut it to 2. So a little over half time as a nurse. Still had my benefits at that point. And I just got so mad at them that I said, I'm going to figure this out. And I tell everybody, if you do this full time, you have to be willing to do whatever it takes, whether that is like for us, it has went into the live selling. If it's slow, flea markets, which I have not done, but I will tell you I would if I had no other option. Like Facebook Marketplace, which isn't an option really for, we're very rural, so I don't have like an audience that will pay for things. And it, you know, I just said I'll figure it out, and that's me all the time. Not long ago, only about 2 months ago, our sales were the worst they'd been in almost 5 years, and we just kind of started hitting it a little bit harder, listing more, started doing lives again. I had stopped for over a year because we needed the income. Like we had to find it somewhere because I don't want to go back to work. So, and I think I did a video on it. I don't know that anybody could ever be fully ready. And I think I've always been like this my entire life. Since I've been working, if I'm not happy at a job and I don't want to go to it, I'll quit. I think that's one of the worst things that you can feel is waking up and not wanting to go to work. And that's how I had gotten. I'd be like, okay, it's before 5, I can still call out. Like I did not want to be there. I didn't want to go. And I've been, like I said, I've been like that a couple of other times. And I think life's just too short to be that miserable. And on my video, the video you were talking about where I said I quit, I chastised Joey Bada Bing because he quit, and I felt like he shouldn't have. He wasn't prepared. He wasn't ready. And like, I think I was crying in that video. I apologized to him because, you know, sometimes you got to have the faith, but to resell well, you have to be extremely self-motivated. And I think there are a lot of people out there that thinks it's easy, and it's not. It's a lot of work. But I think if you want to do it, you can make it work no matter where you're at. I'm not one to take excuses. I'm kind of pretty hard about that because I think if you want to do it, you can. Like that's the bottom line. And you can use all the excuses that you want, but there is a way. Like I buy online auctions. I don't have good sourcing places where I'm at. I have dollar clothes, but those turn into $15. I don't want $15. You know, I prefer, you know, and I'll take it. I'll take $1 into 15. That's an amazing, you know, profit percent. But I would prefer the $200, $300, $400, $500 sales, and that stuff is not here. It's not where I'm at. And so I buy online, I source online, I have it shipped to me, which tells me that anybody in the country, no matter where you are, if you have a mailbox, you can get stuff. And so me hearing excuses, and they'll say, oh, you're on YouTube. No, I bust my butt. I mean, I'm not going to say that doesn't help me some at, you know, at the level that I'm at, it does. And I've looked, and it's probably like 2 to 5%. It's really low for me. It's not a big percent that buy from me. And I know a lot of YouTubers, they do get a ton of viewer sales. I do not, because I have resellers primarily that are watching me, and they're cheap like me, and they don't want to, you know, they don't want to pay full price. And that's okay. Like I get that, but anybody can do it. And I don't like excuses and people that say, oh, I don't have enough time. Like if I tell you what I have going on and you tell me you don't have it, you have enough time for what you want to have time for, and you have to make time for what's important. And if it's listing or if it's family, like I'm a workaholic, so I have to make myself take a break. So I'm kind of the opposite when it comes to that. But we all have, and this is motivational speakers coming out, which I started listening to in like 2022, but we all have the same amount of hours in the day. So people that are millionaires that are making that money have the same amount of time I do. And saying you don't have enough, you can find it. And I think anybody with enough motivation, and that's like you were talking about the why, you have to have a why. Like I don't want to go back to work for somebody else. I don't want to not be home with Dalton and not be able to go to field trips, or if he's sick at school, have to worry about who's going to pick him up. And that, so I think anybody can do it, but I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of self-motivation it takes to be successful at it.
I think so. I want to just interrupt for a minute to pay you a compliment, Kat. I mean, one of the reasons why I really appreciate you so much is that you always keep it real. I mean, like, there's no nonsense. You're telling it like it is and practical, where some other, YouTubers might fluff it up a little bit. You did a great presentation at Boss this year. And I remember your opening line. It was like the speaker before you was talking about sourcing from all over the world and jet setting and this and that.
Traveling, yeah.
Traveling, right? And you came out and said, the last speaker told you how to source from all around the world. I'm going to show you how to source from my couch. And you went and you went out on to your presentation was about online sourcing, and it was really very illuminating. I learned a lot from it as well. So you're very practically set in your presentation. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't sugarcoat, and that's me in all walks of life, whether it's on here or in person. And it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing because I just kind of tell it how it is. And I have a hard time not. So sometimes I have to be like, hold on, because I'm very, very matter of fact about everything. And like I said, again, the presentation I love, and we were out in Vegas for that presentation. I love Native American. I love Southwest stuff, and it's not in Florida. Very, very minimally I will find it. And so I source from the Southwest online to get, the items that I like. One thing I don't think you probably could if you have put enough work into it. Like vintage t-shirts, everybody wants, right? Everybody wants to find them, but that's the problem. Everybody wants to find them. So when you do find them, the prices go crazy. So that's why I tell everybody, you can want to sell whatever you want, but if you can't find it, it doesn't matter what you want to sell, if you can't source it. So the online sourcing for me, that's the main thing, is the Southwestern, Native American, and good jewelry. Like my thrift stores don't have good jewelry, so I have to buy that online.
Now, can you tell us, that's kind of leading into that, about time management? Because you are doing so many things. Do you have any tips on it? Because I mean, it's seriously like, oh, Kat must have 48 hours in her day.
Yeah. I don't, and I'm horrible at time management. It's very, very hard to be doing things. Like this morning, I was trying to list stuff, getting stuff, and then I'll have somebody call me, for something. Last night I was trying to edit a video. My employee was doing a live sale, and so I didn't get my video edited in time. So I don't know that I do have time management stuff, because I keep trying to put a schedule together for myself, and I've not been successful. That's on my to-do list for today. I have like all these planners and none of them are filled out. And it's just hard because for me, and I think a lot of people that aren't in it don't realize, like, YouTube is a full-time job, reselling is a full-time job. Plus I have my son. That's why I don't know if something you plan up, but I had to get employees. I cannot do this all by myself. There is no way that I could do it and do it well. And that's what made me decide to do that. I either had to scale back on YouTube or scale back on reselling. I could not continue doing both without help. And so for me, and if I didn't have employees, I would say, like, I have to do my shipping. Like, the shipping has to be done every day. And I want to list every day, but I don't always get to, And I think the big thing is just prioritizing what has to be done and what can wait. For me, my main channel, the Nurse Flipper channel, I put out videos Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. And that's like a have to do for me, because that is a significant portion of my income. But my thrifting channel is not. So if I only have enough time to do one video, the Nurse Flipper channel is the one that's going to get edited, not the thrifting channel, because that one doesn't make very much money at all, at least not yet. Hopefully it will. And I think a lot of why it isn't making is because it is lower on the priority list. But I think it's really important to realize like you only have so much time, and that's where the prioritizing, like if we need jewelry for live sales, I'm going to stop what I'm doing with the other stuff and I'm going to source, which might take 4, 5, 6 hours that now I just put that stuff back. And I talk about all the time is it's important to give yourself grace too. You cannot do everything all the time. So that's kind of been the main thing for me is like, I have to do what I have to do. And then I can only do what I can and the rest of the time. And for me in the last year and a half or so, I go to the gym. I want to go to the gym. I did not go today, but I'm going to go tomorrow, but I went the last 3 days. So again, that's kind of giving myself grace to, okay, you can skip the gym one day and, get stuff listed. But that is a big priority for me because I have lost over 60 pounds in the last year and I do not want to gain it back. And
amazing.
For a couple weeks, I missed it and I'm like, I got to reset. And I think that's a big thing too, is like, take a step back, look at what you've got going on and figure out what's important, what you have to do and what doesn't have to be done or not done as fast. And a lot of people want to rush to get employees with this. I would not advise that. Like I think a lot of people don't realize, like if you're paying somebody like 15 an hour, you're probably paying about 25, if not more, because you have to match their Social Security, you have to match their FICA, you also have to have work comp insurance. There's just all of these things. So everybody's always like, oh, I want to get an employee. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if you do. And if sales are slow, my employees get paid and I don't get a check. And because that's the priority. They worked. I worked too, but guess what? I don't have to get paid. And so yeah, I'm not the best at time management. And I've read a few books to try and help, but I think the big thing for me is like there's too much going on. So I don't know how I can figure that out. I'm still trying to figure it out. Because there's certain things that like I can't delegate. I want to be the one buying that. I probably could. But I'm not comfortable doing that. Pricing, I'm the only one that prices. And then obviously editing my videos. Oh, and I didn't respond. Answering the comments. So I said from like 100 subscribers that as long as I could, I would answer and I do. And it can be 100 or more in a day. And that takes up a lot of my time, but I prioritize that because I feel the community I've built, and I feel one of the reasons my channel has done well is because of that. It is me. I am responding. I don't like emojis and stuff. I'll just like and heart them. But if anybody writes anything, it's me responding to every single thing on both my channels. And that's important to me. So for me, like at a red light, I'm answering comments. I might, like if I'm in the back, I'm answering So I'm always, because I don't want them to get behind. So I'm on my phone answering comments all the time. But that takes a pretty significant amount of time. But I said that as long as I could, I would. And I've still continued, and I don't feel like it's at any point where I'm not going to be able to, except when I do contests. That gets like out of control because there'll be like so many. So I've started doing my giveaways more on the podcast, where I can do the hashtag giveaway versus in the comments, because I'm like,
you're getting like 1,000 on one video.
And I'm like, and I feel like I got to answer them because I'm not OCD about a lot of things, but that's one thing. Like I want all my comments answered every single day. And I think the community and the feedback, and that's just something I promised myself, like, again, from like 100 subscribers, that if I could, I would. And at some, like, people have said stuff to me, but to me, that's still important. And I could save time doing that, but I don't want to. So yeah, that was a very roundabout way of saying I have no advice. I really don't with time management. That's one of my worst. I feel like a schedule would be good, but then things always come up, like somebody needing help with like the live auction. That's what happened yesterday. Or I happen to come across a really good auction and it has pickup tomorrow. Well, there went everything I planned to do tomorrow, because that's going to take 6 hours to do that. We just did 2 house clean outs. I don't know if you guys heard that, in the last 2 weeks, entire houses. So that like messed up the whole 2 weeks. Like for me and my employees, because they had to come with me to help me load it up. So I think a schedule would be good, but I think being flexible and allowing, for other stuff to come in. But you have to do what you have to do, which is shipping if you're a reseller, because if you don't ship on time, you're going to get put into below standard status, and then you're not going to get sales and everything's going to spiral. So I think that's the key, is prioritizing what has to be done. My comments could wait. Like if I needed to edit a video and get a video out, I would do that before I would answer comments. And I try and list at least 10 a day. I try to do at least 40, but sometimes I don't list any, depending on what else is going on. Tuesdays, I record my videos for the whole week. So condensing too, I guess that's a good time management. I record all the videos on Tuesdays and then I edit them the day they come out, but I've already got them done. And I did that primarily because I don't do this typically. And by this, I mean like this. Like I'm not a wear makeup outside kind of I wear makeup when I'm on camera, and that's pretty much it, except for like lip gloss. So I didn't want to, and my daughter does, I've started, I can do my own hair now, but my daughter does my makeup. And so I didn't want her to have to do it, multiple days a week for me to record videos. So I figure, she's doing my makeup. She did it for me today too, though. And we're not on a Tuesday, but she said, as long as I did my hair. So I did my hair, she did the makeup. But like, that condensing, and then I don't have to worry. Like I used to do the what sold 7 days a week, so I had to wait. Well, now I do screen share. So I used to pull the items and physically, if people watch me a while, they know I'd physically hold the items up. Well, that means I got to come, I got to pull stuff, I got to pack, I got to stop packing to show the items, record a video. So now I just do the screen shares, and I can show better pictures and people can see more details than if I'm just like holding an item up to a camera. So that condensing that, a lot of people, I know Julian Bearded Thrift Machine, he takes 1 day a week and edits all of his videos. I had talked about maybe doing that. I haven't. I get tired of editing. Like I could not sit and edit all day. I'd be like pulling my hair out. So I still edit, on the day that stuff comes out. So being able to condense stuff like that. And I think like my life is way more busy than a standard person. So it's hard for me to tell somebody who's, just your average everyday reseller with time management, because I've got like 50 things going on. I feel like all the time.
And you have memberships too.
I do.
So you have,
and those I love. I love my memberships. And that I thought would get out of control because it has grown. And everybody's like, are you crazy? Because like I do store reviews and it's $1.99 a month, which is extremely, low cost. But what I've learned is like over the years, and some people just do the $1.99 just to support me. I don't feel like they even come into the members' lives. They're just, giving that little contribution every month. But I did put a limit on it, but I've never had to stop or turn anybody away still. And that is that once I've done it like 2 or 3 times, they know. they know exactly what I'm going to say. And if they've been in my membership, they could go and do a store review just like I'm doing. If they've been watching me enough, they're like, oh, their titles aren't long enough. And oh, that picture. And so, and I think people are respectful. I'm really lucky. I have a really, really good community of people, and they don't like ask too much, so if I've done a store review for them, say 3 months in a row, which is appropriate, so we can see that they're fixing it and kind of review it, then they stop. And they don't keep asking once we've kind of already targeted the problems. Live sourcing, which same thing. I love all of them. But I find stuff, and I think same thing, after they've watched me do it a few times, they learn to do it themselves. So they're very respectful of my time and don't expect me to always do it for them. They might, once in a blue moon say, hey, there's this auction I like. Will you look at it and tell me what you think? But nobody's taking advantage of it. So again, I'm really lucky that I have good people. And I did that one. And again, same thing, low cost, because sometimes I'll take an hour to look at an auction for them for $10. That's really low cost. And my friends are like, you're crazy. I don't do ship stuff at all. Like, I only do local because if it's shipped, everybody that's in the chat could bid on it. And I could be making competition between my own members. Occasionally there are two of them that live in the same area, but they have actually worked together and met and become friends. And then they're like, okay, I'm bidding on this, and decide. But the second reason is, like, I've had people try and get me to source jewelry for them. If I take that time and find it and it can be shipped, I'm going to buy it. I'm not stupid. And I'm not going to go find you $1,000. Sometimes I do find them $1,000, but I'm not going to find $1,000 that could be shipped to me, and I could be, doing that. So I don't do any shipped at all, only local. That way it lessens the competition for them. And we've found thousands and thousands of dollars of profit. So it happens, but it has to be a local one, not where everybody can fight. And then the highest one is live shipping too, which we just turn the camera on and ship. So that one's more of a fun behind the scenes, because I'm not like, no hair done, no makeup. I used to always be in my PJs. Literally, I would be in my PJs. So I'm like, well, if they're in the highest membership, they really like me and they don't care if they see me in my PJs. But now it's mostly like in my gym stuff, because I end up like, I go to the gym and then I come and ship. And so I think I've had the memberships 3 or 4 years too. We've had them a long time. And I haven't changed it. And I was worried as it grew. I was like, oh my gosh, if, I have 50 people wanting sourcing and like the minimum I spend is 20 minutes. Like, that's like over 12 hours of sourcing. But everybody's been super respectful, and they're like, okay, I can wait until next time, or, whatever with that, which has been really nice.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Now, as far as the live shows, what made you want to start doing those, and how did you wind up with the hosts that you wound up with?
The sales, like whatnot.
The Tuesday night live.
Oh, Tuesday.
Yeah.
That was just, I don't even know what, like, I think a lot of people were going live back then. That was a long time ago. And I know Josh was one of the main ones, Harry Tornado. He was going live, and that's how I met a lot of people that I know in person. Like, he would let those of us that were smaller channels come on screen and introduce ourselves, and then that would get us subscribers. And so I think seeing, like, Josh is the main one. I know Rally Roots was going live too. Like John and Kevin and all they didn't do a bunch of lives. So it was the other ones. And so I was like, well, I want to do the live and that was way, like, there are a lot of podcasts now. There are a lot of podcasts. There were not a lot of podcasts then. And so I felt like the Q&A, and a lot. I think I started doing the podcast before I was even monetized. I was not making any money at all from YouTube when I did that. And I think one of the other driving factors is that to get monetized on YouTube, you have to have the 4,000 watch hours. And people kept saying that lives were a good way to get watch hours. So I think that was one of I just remembered that. I was like, oh, wait, like I had to get my hours to get monetized. And like I said, I started with Chris and Calvin. I think both of them are still reselling. Neither of them make content anymore. YouTube's a long haul game, and a lot of people realize, like, I might have to do all this work and not get paid. And a lot of people don't have time for it. Like I said, it's another full-time job, whether you're getting paid or not. I was putting in full-time hours and not making a penny. And like you were saying, the consistency of it, which with the live was there, but there's the little bit of luck. So I had them, they didn't last, maybe I want to say a month, maybe two. It was not very long. And I don't even remember how I found Julian. It might have been through Leroy, Blood, Sweat, Cell. And I thought, okay, and I've always thought, I feel like having like a female and a male for the host gives people both points of view. The majority, 85% of my viewers are female. And I think women tend to think they are going to learn better from other women, and men are going to watch other men. I think that's just kind of how it goes. And I banged my head against the wall the first year of my channel because I had like no guys watch it. And I'm like, why won't they watch me? Like, I'm not selling clothes and shoes. Like, I'm not purse type of, and I'm like, why? And now I just accept it. It's my demographic, it's my audience, and it is what it is, and kind of embrace it. But so Julian didn't even have 1,000 subscribers, I think, and I was at like 5,000 or so when I brought him on. And he ended up surpassing me. His wife was ARNP, and he surpassed me, was doing so good with YouTube and reselling. His wife quit her job and they wanted to travel. So that's why Julian left the show. We had like no hard feelings. We're still friends. So he was the co-host for 2 years. But again, I think like a guy that's selling different stuff, like Rod is the co-host now. Like he does a lot of the sports cards and like pop culture and stuff that I don't do and I don't know anything about. So it gives us kind of a basis where people can ask questions about that stuff. And he's knowledgeable in areas that I'm not. And Rod, I met at a get together. I met him at the Prison to Profit convention in South Carolina. And he actually, I had like set him to come on as a guest because we, met at the convention. And then the week after Rod had come on the show, Julian told me he was leaving. And I was like, well, Rod kind of fit good, and I felt, that he was knowledgeable. He's been reselling as long as I have. And so I asked Rod, and Rod has been there ever since. And I think there were quite a few people that were probably ticked at me, because they wanted to be the co-host. But like I said, female wise, I feel like you need that like male female. I feel like that. I feel like it gives a more well-rounded podcast, having the different knowledge and, ways of handling things. And I feel like that like brings in more guys that wouldn't come if it was like an all female, cast of people, which it's funny because me and Rod go back and forth where he'll be the only guy or I'll be the only girl. Like it's very rare our guests are like a guy and a girl. It's normally like all women or all men is how it tends to go. And so, yeah, Rod's been there ever since. I haven't looked back, but I think it's been about 2 years now. And he actually lives close to me, which is cool. I've bought stuff from him that he's sourced that he doesn't really want to sell, but he wants to keep connections going. So it's been, good with like the co-host thing. We went out to Phoenix 2 years ago together and spoke at Camp Listing Party before we went, and then we went to Boss this year. So yeah, it's, and that's just for me has been Like, I want somebody that has the knowledge, and I want somebody that I have felt like the vibe is there. So if and I'm sure at some point Rod is going to leave. That's just like how it goes. Hopefully not soon, but I would probably replace with somebody that had been on the show that I felt like they had the knowledge, they could answer the questions, and like are, what do I want to say? Like, connection almost, is there where we can easily talk back and forth. And being open to other people's opinions. Like, that's one of the biggest thing that kind of a pet peeve of mine is people that say you have to do it their way. And like, this is the only way that it can, and that's so not true. Like, yes, that's like me, I hate free shipping, but I'm not saying somebody couldn't be successful doing it. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is I don't want somebody who is saying like, it's this way and that's it.
I'm sure Mike does too. When you started talking about Rod being a guest, I remember that, and I remember how knowledgeable I thought Rod was. It was like, man, he is on it. I mean, he was on it. And then when you wound up making him your co-host, it was like, yeah, that really made a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I'm sure you remember that, Mike.
Yeah, definitely good choice. Rod is just so knowledgeable and such a great guy. And I won't tell the story about how he really gave me my start in the YouTube world, because I've said it so many times before. But I'm very grateful to him as well. And I think we were reaching for the word chemistry before, Kat, because you do have a nice chemistry between each other.
Yeah, because I mean, different personalities and stuff. Kind of, you can clash. Like, there are people I love that I butt heads with that I could never. Like, I might have them on as a guest, but I could never imagine. And I love them, but I couldn't imagine having them next to me every week,
Now, which meetups, we've been talking about virtual meetups, but which actual in-person meetups have you been to? I know you've touched on a few of them. And what do you feel like the importance of those is?
So I think the first one I did was the Reseller rally, that Craigslist Hunter Pete, John Cincinnati Picker, and Lonnie. I think Shed Flips were the three that put that one on. That was in 2020. It was scheduled, and then I'm trying to remember if it was before COVID or I don't remember. But that was the first one, and then I also did the Prison to Profit, and I had two of my own, and people have asked me over and over to do those. Do you know about that? My meetups I did?
No.
Let me tell you how crazy I am. Okay. So me and my mom were like driving home from somewhere, and we were talking about renting a big house on the river for like family. And I don't know why it popped into my head. I was like, it would be so cool to rent a big house and do a reseller like learning camp. And this is like way before like camp listing party. I was like, that would be like so cool to do. So 2 days later, I was renting a mansion in Orlando, and we did 4 days, and I rented a 14-bedroom mansion just outside of Orlando. I sold the rooms individually, and you were talking about me and George. So George was my speaker. It was me and George at the house, and we rented out the other bedrooms. We even let people like bunk together if they wanted, and it sold out so fast I had to rent another house in the same neighborhood. And we did and I'll tell you now, like, I made zero money because I did way too much, and people yelled at me because I got like everybody whatever flavor drink they wanted. Like, I took special orders. We provided all the food, and so we did breakfast, lunch, dinner. We did learning from like 8 a.m. to like 4 p.m, and then just like networking at night. And the house had a 12-foot screen, so I got to do my presentation almost like as big as the one at Boss, but in a living room. That's what I did. And it sold out. And again, I made like, I might have lost like, I printed everybody notebooks of my presentations, T-shirts, mugs. I like went over the top, and I loved it. I would have to do it better. Trish from List Perfectly said she'd help me because she's an event planner. So if I did it again, I would have help with somebody who who knows? I just like go all in, whether I know what I'm doing or not. That's me. And then we did another one in a 14-bedroom cabin in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and did the same thing and rented out the individual rooms. And that one, Scott Cha-Ching King was who spoke with me. That was the first time I met Scott. I called him or messaged him, and I'm like, can you come to Tennessee and talk with me? And him and George both were like, yes. And Scott drove all the way from Texas to like give a presentation, and he did a couple presentations with me. George, same thing. So both those guys are really good friends of mine. And so, yeah, the people that know about the camps, and that was probably, it was post-COVID. It had to be post-COVID. But the people that went are like, when are you doing another? Because we had talked about doing like an advanced one. So I did like sourcing, shipping, like I did hands-on like shipping tutorials. I wanted to do more networking like I had seen at the other ones. And everybody basically told me, like, if I'm paying this much, I want to learn the whole day. And I'm like, okay, if you feel like you're going to get more value from me teaching more, then I'll do it. So probably 80% of the teaching was me doing it. I made all my presentations, and yeah, it was like, it was really fun because like we had the pool, but it was small. Like I prefer like the Prison to Profit convention. I don't know if that one's a smaller one. But I maxed it out at like 30 to 40 people. So everybody knew everybody that was there. I didn't want it like really, really big. I wanted it more. And a lot of people are still friends like that met at the camp. They're still really good friends. I know all of them. A lot of them are still watching me. I had one of them text me the other day, and it's been 3 years since I've done it. And I just feel like I prefer the smaller groups, because you go to some of the bigger ones and you can't talk to everybody. I wish you could, but you just can't if there's too many people. So I don't know. That was before Dalton was in school though. That's the thing. So now it's a little bit harder with his schedule to make it happen. But yeah, so I did 2 of them. And yeah, people ask, I might, I enjoyed it.
Sure. I had a total brain malfunction. I totally remember when you did that because I was actually chatting lives that you did from one of those.
We went live from the mansion. Yes, and it's so funny because Bill came with like a wine bottle or something and was interviewing me, and him and Vicky live less than an hour from me, and we've become real good friends. They go out on the boat with me. And like they come to Dalton's birthday party, and I met them at my first camp, and they ended up helping me because Vicky was a retired rock band. She did like the planning for rock band events backstage. And so they ended up helping me with the Tennessee one. And I gave them a room for free, and that's how I met them. And like I still am texting them years later. And so like that's the thing with the in-person, you can, actually like hang out and make friends, and you can do that without meeting. I have some people that I consider some of my best friends that I haven't even, met in person.
So you consider those to be important just because of the relationships that you make. And
the networking is really important. Oh, I quit. So Prison to Profit convention, then camp listing party, and then boss. Those are the only ones that I have been to. And then my own.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I missed those. I stay on top of all of the meetups and all, but it sounded like a great time.
That was a long time. Like that was a long time ago. That was a while ago.
Might have been before my era. But if you are, you know where to go, Kat, if you are interested in pursuing another one, because Mary and I are in the business of promulgating meetups for sure. So we gladly.
I really appreciate that from you guys too, because I think that's really important. That somebody has it, because a lot of people don't know, where they're going on. And it's weird. Like you were saying, like everybody would know me. No, like there's so many good reseller channels, and a lot of them have like massive subscribers, and I've never heard of them. So I feel like YouTube brings together like a little circle of resellers, and then you only see them, but then there's this other whole like circle, like this alternate universe of resellers that have just as many subscribers. So I love that, you know, you guys post all of them and kind of bring it about, because we need that so that people in different areas will know where to go. And we talk about it all the time, and I'm sure you guys do too. Like, it can be lonely. Like, you're working by yourself, you know, you're not really talking to anybody, especially if you're doing it full time. So it's like having coworkers, you know, that are there that you can talk to, because most times a spouse doesn't like it, doesn't understand, they don't care. And that's okay. I finally, with my ex-husband, gave up, because I've realized, like, I feel like people are either resellers or they're not, and you can't make somebody love that, you know, that doesn't. So I would never want to like put it on somebody that really doesn't care. You know, I hate to say that, but they're not like as a bad thing, but that's not their thing. You know, that's not what they like. So it's nice to have other resellers that do care, that will be, you know, happy for you, and, you know, like, oh my gosh, you made this much money. And cause I used to make, you know, hundreds of dollars of profit, and my ex-husband be like, oh, okay. And I'm like, you know, hello, like I need, you know, and I didn't get it. Yeah, I just didn't get it.
No, you definitely get that from the community. And you also mentioned before how like there are these little individual communities, these little spheres throughout that, you know, your group might not know of their group. Another great thing that I find with the meetups is it really makes the entire reselling community very homogenous. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I've gone to a meetup, and, you know, I fancy myself on being pretty, and Mary as well, you know, aware of a lot of the different channels and all the people, but there are people that you just don't know. And then you get to these meetups and you finally encounter them. Like one good example was Resell Rabbit. Now, John is a really big force in the YouTube
I used to
space.
watch him. He was one of the first ones I watched.
I was not aware of him at all. I mean, I just, you know, an honest mistake. I mean, a great
No,
guy.
and I bet you there are more. I guarantee you there are more, because I get like the recommendations pop up, and I'm like, who the heck is this? And I'll like click it, and they've got 30,000 subscribers and hundreds of videos, and I've never
heard of him.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing, you know, Mary like stopped in the tracks when, you know, John was on. I did a live from Omaha, right?
Yeah.
He was at the Omaha meetup, and she says, "Do you know who that is?" And I really did not. And, you know, he's such an endearing guy. I mean, he was really excited to meet me as well, and the concept of my channel and all. And he's supporting me, like, you know, you gotta. I'm going to put you on my channel, and he's great, and this and that. He said, I don't know if I'm great, John. And here's a kid who's got like 200,000 subs, and I had like 200 at the time, and it doesn't really matter, you know what I mean? It's a leveling force where you just have an opportunity to like catch up with some different groups and communities that you might not have been aware of before, and then you attach yourself to that community. So now I know all of the people in John's sphere of influence as well, and hopefully it works both ways.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we'll be respectful of your time, but it is. I mean, we could talk to you for weeks.
For hours. So we just say we're going to keep it to an hour, because Mary's got to work, and Kat, I think you have a show coming up, so we don't want to hold you any more than we're our welcome. But we really want to thank you so much for taking the time out. You're just a delightful guest. You know, brought a lot to the table. I kind of fancied myself that I knew a little bit about you, Kat, and I do, because I've been following you for all these years now. But you always learn something new. You know, you always learn something new. Yeah. So I'm really, really.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. I am happy to come on for sure. And we need to at some point get you guys back on my channel. Me and Rod were getting where we were doing like a lot of the same people, and everybody's like, you're having the same. So we're trying to like switch it up a little more. So if you guys know any too, like if you know other people, again, I don't
We will. Yeah,
watch a ton anymore. So I don't know. Yeah, definitely send people
make some
my way for the podcast because I want to get some new people on there for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Like when you got Ryan from Galaxy CDs, Rocks and Flips on there, I was so excited that because it was just
He was a good guest.
Yeah, we had Amanda. Tuition Ain't Cheap. She's absolutely amazing. She has quite a few subscribers. I wasn't aware of her till somebody sent me her video. And I was like, oh, she's really she's good. She's really knowledgeable. I like her. So yeah, definitely send me people because I don't know them.
Well, can you tell us where we can find you one more time? I don't want to forget to do that.
Yeah. So my name is the same everywhere as the Nurse Flipper. That's on like eBay, Poshmark, Mercari. We're also on Instagram, YouTube, of course. I also have Cat's Treasure Hunting, which is my thrifting channel over on YouTube. And then I am on TikTok, but I don't post. I talk way too much if you didn't notice that. I keep trying to do shorts, but I haven't been overly successful at that. So I am there on TikTok, and I keep adding more stuff to my plate. But yeah, so the Nurse Flipper everywhere is where you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you. And Mike, you'll put the link underneath.
I will, certainly will. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. That was great. I know I learned a ton from you. Always.
I think the learning goes both ways though. Yes. I think a lot of people don't realize that everybody knows different stuff. Even if you don't know that much, you still have something to contribute.
That's why our theme is to just bring people together one way or the other, because it always benefits, both sides.
Everybody.
It benefits them all, and it really raises our community. As great as it is, it makes it that much better when we stay in touch and support each other. All right, so with that, I will say thank you all for joining in, and thanks again, Kat, for coming. And we will see you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.